Hello everybody, my name's Ian. This is Starship Adventures and I am now in the auxiliary control room, and as promised, I'm going to do our little talk today on my favorite episode, the Doomsday Machine. And there's a lot of information I want to tell you guys about. This is just an amazing episode. It was the second season of Star Trek, and it aired on October 20th, 1967. So, I mean, this was a long time ago, and it just instantly became a classic, and it's on most people's top 10 list of episodes. Not everyone's. One thing you learn about Star Trek fandom is one guy's best episode is another guy's worst episode. So I try not to crap on episodes too much because somebody else somewhere loves that episode. All right, and we get the character. There's one guest star in this, and that's William Wyndham, and he plays the character Commodore Decker. And he's found in this room in the Constellation right after it's discovered by the Enterprise. And there's a fan production that will show you what happened on the Constellation before the Enterprise got there, and that's fun. That's a fun fan film. But Commodore Decker, if you remember, was found just like this in this room. He had beamed his crew down, and the transporter went out, and he was stuck up there, and they were stuck down there, and he came back here to the auxiliary control room. His ship basically damn near destroyed, and nothing working. Small amounts of life support and things like that functioning, but for the most part the ship was dead in space. And it's found by Kirk and the Enterprise crew, and the shot of that ship when I was a kid was haunting. And later I find out they bought a model of the Enterprise and they took a blowtorch to it. And that's how they created it. And the Doomsday Machine, the big cone that they were running from, the original one was actually a windsock dipped in concrete. And it's funny because when Gene Roddenberry sent them out to make it, they went out and they made it and they brought it back and they put it up in front of him, and he goes, "What the hell is that? It looks like a windsock dipped in concrete." He goes, "Well, it's a windsock dipped in concrete." And so they ended up painting it up and using it, and that was the big scary Doomsday Machine. And there's some really cool facts about this one. Decker's captain's log was on 4202.1, and when they play back the captain's log, you can hear him talking about how they sense planets breaking up ahead, and they're going to go find out what's going on. Do you know that William Wyndham was not the first person chosen for that role? Robert Ryan was chosen for the role, a very different actor, a more explosive type actor, and he was chosen for this role, and he was supposed to play it like he's like a lunatic, like he's flying off the handle like a lunatic. And they ended up getting William Wyndham to play the role because Robert Ryan was not available. And William Wyndham decided he wanted to play the role very differently, and he played it as a broken man, a captain on what's left of his broken ship. And he played it wonderfully. I'm so glad they ended up with William Wyndham, and I'm so glad that he played it the way he did, because it made that episode great. Something neat about this episode that you may not notice at first blush, but Nichelle Nichols and Walter Koenig, even though it's a second season, Nichelle Nichols and Walter Koenig are both suspiciously missing from this episode. It's not a conspiracy. They were just given the week off. But what a week to be given off. There was a lot of bridge footage in this one. The fill-in communications person got a lot of lines, and the navigator could have got some more lines too if it was had it been Walter Koenig. Of course, I think the extra they had there didn't get any lines, but the episode was written by a man who was only 27 years old at the time, and that's Norman Spinrad. He wrote this episode start to finish, and he believed in what he wrote so much that he was on the set every day of principal shooting. and he made sure that everything was done just right. And unlike most writers of the day, he was on set for every episode. Like I said, that's crazy to me. The initial story outline for this episode was called The Planet Eater, and then they called it The Planet Killer, and eventually ended up with the Doomsday Machine. And they do refer to it in the episode. Kirk said it's some kind of doomsday machine, and so they do actually refer to it. One of the things I like to see, especially in older TV shows, is do they say the episode name in the episode? I know that's quirky, but if you go back in Star Trek, most of the time they will say the episode name at some point. But there's a few that they don't. They never say it. It's just because it's a reference to something that fits the episode or whatever. There's my wife sneaking around with the tribbles. She's putting tribbles all over the ship. She beamed them out of a Klingon engineering section somewhere, and now they're all over the ship. And these things are born pregnant. You got to really be careful with these things. But anyway, back to the Doomsday Machine. Here, you want your tribble back?
Give me.
That's the trouble with those things. Scotty goes flying around the engineering deck. Now, I want you to remember this, okay? At one point in the episode, Scotty is hanging on to the impulse engine grating that's behind him in the engineering section, and he's holding on like this, and he's like, oh, you remember that scene? Yeah, well, yeah, it was actually B-roll footage that they shot for Tomorrow is Yesterday, when they were shooting back in time and the ship was violently moving around. And they reused that shot as him on the Constellation making those save movements. Either that or every time the ship moves, he goes and grabs a hold of that screen. I don't know. There's also in the episode one point where there's a tricorder there, and then when they flip back to the scene again, the tricorder is gone. So watch for that one, a little error. I love little errors in production. And the upgraded version of it is amazing, because what they did was they put all new space shots in there. And there's some really good stuff in this episode that you didn't see in others. Like even in the original, when the transporter would go out there and be woof, and the smoke would come up from the transporter pad. That's the only time we saw that in the original series, which I thought was really cool. That's a standout thing. And there was a lot of neat CG in this, but the space stuff was kind of weak for the time. Well, not for the time. It was good for the time. It was weak for now. And so what they did was, when they went back and they remastered all the Star Treks, if you're going to go back and watch them, watch the remastered ones. You could actually see the Enterprise making strafing runs over the top of the Doomsday Machine, firing phasers all the way down the long axis of the thing. And it's really a neat scene. I mean, it's when the first time I saw it, I was like out of my chair. I'm like, yes, you finally got to see what that looked like. We never saw it before. So it's really cool. I think it was such a neat concept. This was like a killing robot that was set loose at some point, and it just kept going on killing and killing for many years. And this was actually Star Trek's Captain Ahab. This was Star Trek's whale, if you will, Moby Dick. And Moby Dick is something that's referenced in Star Trek over and over again. In one of the Star Trek movies, the character tells Picard, you're Captain Ahab. You got to get your whale. And so it's a reference that's used a lot in Star Trek. Now, it's not directly referenced in this episode, but this is known as the original series, Captain Ahab episode, because William Wyndham, is the actual hurt captain. I mean, he's the guy, he's lost his crew, he's lost his ship, and he's going after this thing. He's going to kill this thing no matter what it takes, and he goes after it, and that's what's such amazing about this is it's the Moby Dick story set in the 22nd century, which I've always thought was really, really cool. And most of it takes place right here in this room. I want to show you, the tour's coming, so I just have a few more minutes. This button right here, you guys see this one right here? Okay, it's armed. Press this one, 30 seconds later, poof, Once it's activated, there's no way to stop it. That's what Scotty tells him just before he beams back to the Enterprise, standing right over there. Yes, that one. Once you press it, there's no way to stop it. And what it does is it overloads the impulse drive. And Kirk waited until his calculations looked like he was about 30 seconds out from them all. And he set the thing. And then he told him, beam me aboard. And woof!
Get me the hell
And the transporter didn't work. There was a number of episodes that came down to the transporter. Like Obsession, where they're down on the planet, the cloud monster's coming and they're transporting, and the shock waves from the antimatter explosion are coming in and everything. Several episodes came down to that last second in the transporter room, and this is one of those. Real neat part at the end, you'll hear a clock ticking. Not only is Sulu playing Cuckoo Clock, which he did a lot in the series, but he's literally going 14, 13, and if you listen to him, he's counting way slower than seconds actually go by, and the clock that's ticking is ticking at about a minute and a fourth, or a minute and a third every time it clicks. So it's not an actual minute. So you think you think there's 30 seconds, but that scene takes almost a minute to happen, which is really cool when you think about it. It's just a way of tricking you and stretching that suspense out and giving you those last few minutes of wonderful television before it's time to go for the week. And I thought that was so amazing. This one has a great climax. And of course, at the end, we get that wonderful walk for the second time all the way around the bridge. And we get to see the front of the bridge, and Spock and Kirk walk by. However, you don't see the Doomsday machine because it's just literally a static image they've got stuck in the view screen. In the new one, they have gone back and put the Doomsday machine in the background. So when they walk by, you can see the lumbering Doomsday machine falling over in the back, which I thought was a wonderful touch. And my hat's off to the Akutas and everybody that was involved in the remastering of Star Trek. I know some of the old timers are pissed about it. Whatever. I think it's just taken something great and made it even better. And the old ones are still there. You can watch whichever one you want. They're both available every day of the week. So it's one of those things. But anyway, that's it. That's my deep dive into the Doomsday Machine. It's a wonderful, wonderful episode. My favorite of the run. And of course, in the second season, some of the best episodes were in the second season. As you know, the third season saw a lot of budget cuts and some more bad writing. But the first and second seasons were really good. And this was probably one of the best episodes for most people. Now, when you think best episodes of Star Trek, you start thinking things like City on the Edge of Forever. You start thinking things like, I don't know, Tholian's Web. You start thinking of Balance of Terror, The Trouble with Tribbles. All these really great top 10 episodes. But the Doomsday Machine's always on that list because it is one of the best episodes. A bit dark, yes, but a great, great episode. If I was going to tell somebody, hey, I want you to watch Star Trek for the very first time, I would want them to watch, say, things like The Doomsday Machine and City on the Edge of Forever, because those things really tell about what we are. I also think another really good one is the Corbomite Maneuver. No episode tells the ideology of Star Trek better than the Corbomite Maneuver. So some really, really great episodes out there. Sorry, I have a hard time reading the chat. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad you guys have enjoyed this weekend. I wish that more time was spent talking about these great shows from so many years ago. The neat thing about YouTube is we hope, unless there's some kind of electromagnetic attack or something, we hope that all these videos that we make on here will be kept for posterity. You know, I posted things on YouTube 15 years ago, and they're still there. I can go back and find them. So I'm really hoping this becomes a permanent record for our society, and that people can go back and seek out these things. Now, finally, one last thing. There is a YouTube video out there called Doomsday Revealed. And the man that made it did a wonderful job. All right. Eddie Paskey is interviewed in it. and there's just some great, it's a great clip. It's like 17, 18 minutes. A wonderful watch, because you know what? The music in the Doomsday Machine was amazing. You watch these TV shows today, it's just the same stock canned music playing over and over in the background. They wrote music for specific episodes. Everything was done specifically for this episode. The song you hear, dun 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 dun. Yes, it's the same notes that they used in Jaws. Not only that, there's elements of the music in the Doomsday Machine that are used almost note for note in Jaws. I mean, this where a lot of the music that we hear today in movies and stuff, a lot of that stuff, they were learning how to do it back when this show was made. And that show is dun 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 dun, building that building and building and building. It was an amazing thing, and it ended up, you're going down and it's going into the mall of this thing, and the suspense is building, dun 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 dun, and the clock ticking. Oh my God, what a great episode! What an amazing episode! And just to see how it's all done, go back and check that out. It's called Doomsday Revealed, and it's here on YouTube. And it was, I'm sorry, I don't know who made it, but kudos to them. It's well done, and I absolutely love it. And they talk a lot about the music and all the different types of music that were all woven together in this episode, and all of the work that goes into these episodes. And remember, they were all done in an assembly line, where the music people had it for a week, the arts people had it for a week, the special effects people had it for a week, and it literally, this thing started from the writing and went all the way through to the end of production on an assembly line, and they made 26 of these a year. And that, if you think about it, that's one every other week. And what they did was they were debuting them 6 months out of the year. So there you go. We'll be back in a little while. We're going to be here for a while longer, and I'll do a couple more lives before we're done. The tour is coming around the corner, so I want to go ahead and clear out of auxiliary control. But we'll see you guys later. My name's Ian. I'm here with my wife, Carlotta Alana. And this is Starship Adventures, and we will see you guys in just a little while.